It is a design system, and it is there to keep you in a loop. They say the risk of future harm. So
Mhm.
there can be no harm at all that's come to a child. These people can come and take them and say, well, they're a risk. There could be. But then that's just crazy. And the police
So
smashed through my door on the 4th of May to come and get my son. They
is
arrested
this the
me, but I
video
did.
that was viral?
Yes. So I put
Yeah.
them on TikTok live, and
Mhm.
apparently I broke a record or something. There was loads of videos going around because 385,000 people uh, joined the live, seeing the police doing what they were doing.
Mhm.
When they stole my children, I didn't even know where they were. Nothing. And again, that's against the law. In the Children's Act, you're supposed to know where your children are. You're supposed to have contact. And I knew absolutely nothing. Women are giving birth and they're having their babies ripped away within an hour or two of giving
I've
birth.
heard.
And
I've heard.
it is, and again, with no court orders.
Ladies and gentlemen, mums and dads, children of appropriate ages, welcome to the Family Court Voice podcast. Our special guest this week is Kerrie Little. Kerrie, welcome to the podcast.
I thank you for having me.
No, thanks for joining us. As always, we'll be covering three main topics. The topics are going to be, what do you do to raise awareness? So we'd like to know a little bit more about your social channels, why you do it, what you're aiming to achieve by doing that. The second will be around the family court system itself. So it could be the courts, the judges, child agencies, CAFCAS, social services. And then the third topic will be around mental health. It could be, how has this affected you, your children, and what advice would you have for other people? And then, as always, we'll end up with some quick fire questions before we finish. Okay, so Kerrie, the floor is yours. I'm really happy to have you on. And like I said, when we spoke before, a lot of the conversations and the area of family court and parental alienation that I come across is always from the perspective of fathers. But being in this community, I've started seeing a lot more stuff coming up on my feed with regards to single mothers and how the family courts and social services and parental alienation is really affecting them. And it's really opened my eyes to things. And I've realized that it's not necessarily a gender thing. It's happening on both sides. So do you want to start by telling us a little bit about what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, well, I basically started speaking out about my own personal situation because I felt like I had nowhere else to turn because applications were being dismissed without merit when they had total merit and things like that. And then with speaking out and putting things on my social media, I obviously came across a lot of other women and men that are going through it too, through the court system. And I found that it's encouraged a lot of others to speak out, which is another reason why I do it, because obviously silence is protecting the harm.
That's the reason I was doing it as well. It's the exact same reason. Yeah.
And so many people aren't aware of what goes on because even myself, until I had experienced this, I did not think that there was any way that people could come and take your children just like that. When you hear about someone's had their children taken or their child taken, you think there must have been something really bad that's happened. And it's not. And even by their own laws, it doesn't have to be because they say the risk of future harm. So there can be no harm at all that's come to a child. These people can come and take them and say, well, we think you might, there risk, there could be. But then that's just crazy anyway, because no one would do anything if we lived by that sort of rule.
So it's really about, for years now, the courts have been trying to, I guess, silence everybody from talking about it. They've been operating behind closed doors. But now what I found personally is that with the rise of social media, people aren't afraid anymore. People are taking to social media and actually telling the stories of what's happening behind these closed doors, the secret family court and, things like, restricting access to children, things like forced adoption and having children, like you say, taken away, kidnapped and taken into care for no reason. It's people are talking about it like a pandemic or an epidemic.
Yeah, well, it's a national scandal, to be honest. And it's not just national, is it? It is worldwide, but obviously we're here in the UK dealing with it. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm glad that obviously others are speaking out, but there are also so many people that are still afraid to speak out because they will then have their contact with their children cut and things like that. But then people need to, the wider public need to be aware that haven't actually had any dealings with social services of how it works as well. Because if it's about safeguarding children, then the reasons given for people not allowed to see their children is not of any safeguarding issue.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
No, like I haven't seen my children since 2024, and the law actually states that social services can only stop contact for 7 days, and then they have to take it back to court and get a court order for no contact. And they haven't done that. I got a letter from a manager at social services telling me I won't be seeing my children, and I can have letterbox contact twice a year, and that they will read it first and they will redact anything they don't deem appropriate. But then I've seen other people online where they have shared a letter that they've written for their children and also shared the email from the social worker telling this woman that it is not appropriate to tell her children that she loves them. I think this lady said, "My handsome little man." No, that's completely inappropriate, apparently. Then they basically told this lady that she can just tell the children what she's been up to. So, you're not allowed to tell them you love them, you miss them, that they're handsome or anything like that. So you can just tell them what you've been doing, which most of the parents aren't doing a lot apart from trying to get through each day without their children. And even if they were doing things, how would a child feel? They haven't seen their mum or dad, and then they're just getting a letter. No love you, no miss you, just telling, oh, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. It's like what I've come to realize in 3.5 years of dealing with it, well, this just particular situation, but actually I've been dealing with the family courts for the last 10 years. In that 10 years, I've actually realized it is not just realized, I've discovered, and there's evidence of, it is a design system. And it is there to keep you in a loop. They support the parent that is using the children or being abusive towards the other parent. I know lots of men do think that the courts favour the women, and I'm sure in lots of cases they do. But where there's actual abuse and purposely using the children, they will side with that parent, whether that be the mother, whether that be the father, because they know the protective parent is going to keep fighting for their children, and they're going to be in the system and perpetuating it, and more applications, more money for them, and it just goes on and on.
No, you're absolutely correct. I think that was one of the messages that you sent me actually on Facebook. I should have had it ready to go, because when you sent that to me, it was almost like that's exactly what's going on here. I'm going to see if I can bring it up quickly. Bear me for 1 second. It's really important. Okay, so we were talking about research that we were doing, right? And you messaged me back almost word for word what I say to other people. And I was like, right, okay, it's not about gender. This is what you wrote. Yes, unfortunately, through my research, I have found that it's the abusive parent or the one using the children as a weapon that courts or social services side with, whether that be the mother or the father, because that's what keeps it all going. That's where the money is to be made. They know the safe, loving parent will do anything to keep their children and keep fighting, therefore keeping the system going. It really is a designed system. Okay, so that is pretty much the message of this podcast, and that's what I make my videos about. And I could even use that on one of my videos, right? That's pretty much the topic of all my videos, and you hit the nail on the head there. The reason that I came across yourself is obviously I notice I don't scroll through social media a lot, to be honest. I post my things, I jump out, and I interact with a couple of people, but every now and again something new will pop up on my feed, and your stuff started to pop up on my feed on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, let's check out some of our videos. And I've noticed some of them have even gone super viral, which is amazing, right? Do you want to tell us about some of those?
Yeah, so in May 2024, it was the 4th of May, that the police actually came to my house again, because my youngest son, who had been taken on the 2nd of August 2022, along with his brother, they had been separated as well. But my youngest had run away from the foster carer that he had been with for nearly 2 years. He made some pretty concerning, well, extremely concerning disclosures, actually. And this was actually when I was having contact. Well, I hadn't for a few months because they had been messing me around with my contact. But even when I was having contact with my son, he was telling me certain things that was concerning enough that I was raising and nothing was being done about it. But you get 2 hours, they're measly 2 hours a month. And you want to try and make it as positive as you can. But then when your son's telling you things, but I actually didn't even know the half of it. And he actually disclosed that the woman that was looking after him was pouring wine in the morning and telling me it was pear juice. Now, I took my mind back to one of the times that actually, when I went back to her car to say goodbye to my son when I was allowed in the community with my children, um, I thought I smelled alcohol. And the way these people make you feel, I thought, am I wrong? No, what if I am wrong? I thought, no, I'm going to say no. He's not getting in that car. But the way they make you feel is you're the causing trouble, that you worry that, you're not going to go home with your child. This is so against nature, what these people make you go through, and your decisions you have to make. And obviously it turns out that she probably had been drinking alcohol if she's drinking wine every morning and, she's driving my son around. But so anyway, he ran away and I kept him safe for 4 days with me. And the
So
police,
he came back to you?
yeah, he ran back to me, yeah. And even after that, the social worker has put in a report after that my son said it was the best 4 days of his life since being taken into care. And we were basically in hideout in the house. So, it's shocking, the things. There's certain things that I can't put out there for my son's privacy and stuff. For the awful, awful things that have gone on. The police smashed through my door on the 4th of May to come and get my son again. They
Is
arrested
this the
me, but I
video
did.
that was viral?
Yes. So I put them on TikTok Live, and apparently I broke a record or something. There was loads of videos going around because 385,000 people uh, joined the live, seeing the police doing what they were doing. They were completely ignoring my son and the disclosures he was making. I don't think any of them really knew what they were doing. And then when I got arrested, they didn't even finish telling me why I was arrested. And then when I came back out, I was released, and my son was nowhere to be seen. I
So
haven't
you
seen
were
him since.
arrested that day?
Yeah. And they said, at the time, you said, for encouraging a child, that's what's on the video, and he stops. But I think it's keeping a child away without lawful authority. Well, as I said in the interview, don't be so ridiculous. I'm the only one with lawful authority. These people are keeping my children away without lawful authority. And then they have the cheek to put me in cuffs in the back of a van in a cell, and tell me that I don't. And all the things that have happened to my children, one of those things happened in my care, when they were in my care. And it's just bizarre. Even in the court order, they've said that expressly no mental health and no drug or alcohol misuse. So what have you actually taken my children for? Where's the threshold being met? That is a really high threshold to remove children. And that's what people need to
So,
realize. It's not a high threshold, because, it is on paper, but but then
so hang on,
also if it's
let me stop you there for a minute. So you don't even know the reason that they were taken away. What reasons did they give you? They must have given you some sort of reason.
on the court order, it says beyond parental control. And it literally, the words it says that I've shouted at my children at times. A lot of parents have raised their voice at their children at times, yeah, and that I've been emotionally dysregulated. This is to keep my children until they're 18. I can't explain to you how much of a pantomime it was, because I actually did have a barrister, and she was the head of the chambers as well. And if they can't pick out from the bundle the minutes of the meeting where 2 weeks before the removal, it states that my children didn't even meet a child protection threshold. These are the types of things that you would be bringing up. And this also, I don't think people realise that, one, if they get the solicitor, the social services always give them a list of solicitors. People go and use that solicitor, and they're a part of the
Part of the
design.
same system, yeah.
And I had one barrister, because I had quite a few, to be honest, because every time I would meet one at the court, I would say what I already know to be true. And they don't want a client like that because they don't want to represent you really, but they can't step down because, of it implicates them. But one of them, when I said in the court before the hearing, if they stopped robbing everyone's children on a daily basis and taking everyone through this, then there wouldn't be the barristers' jobs, would there? A lot of people wouldn't really have a job. And she said to me, she got flustered and she said, I don't think I'm going to be able to represent you if you're going to say I'm complicit in kidnap. I haven't used those words at that time, So it's like, because we know as well, when you get a barrister, you hand over your power of attorney. You're not going to speak for yourself. And if we go deeper, they actually class you, the courts class you as an idiot and that you can't speak for yourself. And they treat you as a ward of the state and they can do whatever, you're consenting to it. So I do urge everyone to really represent yourself because you know your case better than anyone else. You know the facts and you can present them and you can speak for yourself. And they have to listen. I found that the more people that have represented themselves, they've got further.
And so you've tried solicitors, barristers, and have you also tried going in as a litigant in person as well?
Yes. Well, yes, before I took some documents in and I went to the Royal Courts of Justice and I was before a master. Now I didn't actually put an application in, but I went there with my documents, the evidence of the harm. And there was two really nice ladies that worked there. And when I showed her the evidence and the photos and things like that, they couldn't believe it. And they tried getting me in front of this master. Now I showed the master my documents and he was like a rabbit in headlights and was, no, I can't help you. No, I can't help you. I don't have jurisdiction. And I said, well, you tell me how someone had jurisdiction to steal them then. And he said, I don't know. You need to leave. I then looked him up and he actually retired 3 years before and he wasn't even on the list of judges sitting in retirement. So, I mean, who was that man that I was before? I've tried going in with, I've tried privately prosecuting, but they know what I'm trying to do. They know who is complicit. And how are you going to get one of their own to say, yeah, they did do wrong here. They did this, they did that when they're all doing it. So it's at a point that who do you go to?
Yeah.
You're going to ask another judge that they've done this wrong when those same judges sit in the family courts. They're still making decisions on people's children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the problem, isn't it? Because you've got no one to turn to. You can't go to any other courts. You can't go to the police. You can't go to higher ups. You can't go to MPs. You can't write letters of complaint. They just get ignored. You can't go to the government. You can't go to ombudsman.
Because they're all one and the same.
I've tried all of that. It's like you say, an endless loop of form fills with no end goal whatsoever. They just send you off on another loop. And you think, right, how many times can I pay for these applications and forms and things like that and end up with, waiting 9 months for a reply and receiving a reply saying, yeah, sorry, we can't help you with this, case closed. That's one of the reasons that people are turning to social media now, because there's nowhere else to go to be heard, to tell your story or for anyone to listen or to make any sort of impact. So going back to what you were saying before, can you tell us a little bit more about how your children were taken? I think that's an interesting story. We spoke a little bit about it offline before. So are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, so I'll try and keep it as short as I can. So basically, when I left the father of my children, which was 10 years ago now, within weeks, I had court papers through claiming I'm an unfit mother, which is a way to skip the mediation process as well. Now, bearing in mind, my eldest is 23 years old and the father has been in and out of their lives. If he thought I was that unfit, he certainly wouldn't have left me to it, shall we say. Anyway.
And how many children do you have?
3. I have 3 boys.
3 boys, yeah. And what ages are they?
They're 23, 14 and 13, although my 14-year-old is just nearly 15 and my youngest is nearly 14 as well. But they were 10 and 11 when they were taken. So I've been dragged through the system for the last 10 years, the court system, firstly through the family court, through the father put in applications, malicious applications. He actually got less
What were
contact.
those applications? What were
They
those
were actually
applications?
for full custody. He wanted full custody to say that I was an unfit mother. But it was all to do with control, because I actually got a message from him saying that it was the best amount of money that he spent on getting me under control, and that if I step a foot out of line, then he will come down on me like a ton of bricks. Not that the court is interested in any of this or any of the people involved, when they can see blatant threats and blatant admissions, basically. So when it didn't really work going through the court system like that, and he would have spent thousands, and he probably didn't want to spend any more, he started making allegations and going through social services. They would come out, see everything was fine with me and my children, and close the case. But obviously, to keep doing that as well isn't great, and also shows there's some conflict there, or abuse, because clearly of the nature of the allegations and the fact that they were malicious. So you'd also find with social workers, certain ones, and especially managers, they've got to those positions for a reason as well. And they're not particularly nice. Really, half of these people, well, the ones I've experienced, I don't know why they're in this job, apart from to have control and power over
Yeah.
make them feel good. That's the only thing that I can see.
On that, let me jump in here, because my experience with that, when you get to CAFCAS officers who are kind of like, the end goal of a social worker is to become a CAFCAS officer, right? So the demeanor that I've noticed of the CAFCAS officers and the managers of social workers, they've all got the same demeanor. They're very sharp, bossy, in your face, aggressive, belittling behavior and tone, the way that they talk to you. It's, yeah, and they don't seem to have any answers for anything. They just try and shut you down and talk. Okay, so what about this? Yep. Okay. Yep. No, blah, blah, blah. It's very short, sharp, and as if they know everything.
Yeah.
But then what
Because
I've also found,
they haven't got
I actually ask them questions. I say to them, okay, I've got 10 years experience doing this. Okay. So, if you're experienced and if you're the most experienced person, as you've just told me, can you explain this to me? No, I don't. I can't off the top of my head. Okay, so give me one example. I said, I'm asking you a really basic question about the job that you're making decisions on. You're not able to do that, and you're calling yourself an expert. Do you see what I mean? They just can't answer it.
And that is exactly when they turn on you. You're not allowed to ask questions unless you literally say, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full. Yeah, do whatever. If you dare try and exercise any of your rights, or, then forget it. Then you are targeted. It's literally like that, because that's all I do is ask. Or when they've lied, I've pulled them up on their lies. Like one of them, when I was saying, because I had the family support worker, and the woman that actually took my children, I've got the text messages from her. She wanted to close the case. So there can't be, and we're on a voluntary plan. So, but then she was going to take away my family support worker that had really become more of a friend, and the kids really liked her. So I said, well, no, I like her coming around. And they said, oh, well, we were going to give you someone else. And I said, well, what for? The children like her. We don't need loads of different people. And she said, oh, it's demand and capacity. There's too much demand and there's not enough capacity. And I said, it makes no sense. Please stop insulting my intelligence, because if you're going to take my family support worker and give me another one, and give my family support worker to another family, what's changed in the demand of capacity?
The narrative they're trying to build, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So there's nothing that's changed. And so, but because they can't answer, then you're difficult and you're aggressive, and, it's
Argumentative. If
Yeah.
you ask questions, then you're argumentative.
Yeah. And if you don't allow them to tell you what to do, like in some contacts, my son's been telling me things, and a contact worker, she sat there typing away, and she'd say, right, change the subject. No, you're not allowed to talk about that. And I say, excuse me? My son is telling me very concerning things, and he can absolutely tell me, because I'm going to leave in a minute. He's not going to see me for a month. He needs to tell me. And when I've questioned and said, what do you expect a mother to do when her child is saying, you tell me what you say I should have said in that situation. Oh, you should say, don't worry about that now. That's adult. We'll speak to an adult about it later. Let's play this now. And I said, you're having, like, literally having a laugh. Because what do you think that would do to a child when they've plucked up the courage, not that they need to pluck up the courage with me. I'm saying in general, my children can talk to me about anything and they know that, which is why they have. But I said, what do you think that would do to a child when they've got the courage to speak about something that's happening to them and an adult says, yeah, don't worry about that now. Let's just do this. Stop them from ever speaking up again. Or like they're just being brushed off. And I will absolutely not do that to my children. And
Again, it probably comes down to the children are probably trying to tell you something that doesn't fit within their narrative and they don't want it recorded.
Exactly. And the same thing is my son basically described, he explained to me in contact, he described how he said that every time he thinks about when he was stolen, you know, he described the physical feelings that he got and what happened to his body and felt like he was going to pass out basically every time he thinks about it. And I looked at the contact supervisor and I said, that is trauma. See what you've done to my children, what these people have
So
caused.
important question, was that recorded in the report?
No, what it was recorded as is that because also he said that his whole body goes all cold when he thinks about it. So I'm thinking like probably goosebumps, you know, it's trauma, it's PTSD in my opinion.
Of course, it is.
And it was recorded that we went outside, didn't have his coat on and told his mother he was cold. But then the next time.
So that's how they wrote that section up. Okay.
Yeah. And I've got a recording. Sorry.
So I was just going to say, before we started, I said no swearing. Okay. So I'm telling myself now not to swear at that. Okay.
I know, right?
I'm pretty close, right?
Yeah. So then I had that contact supervisor again. When I went to the contact the next time, I have to go there earlier, and I recorded myself and him, the conversation. And I said, are you in the contact today? And he said, yes. And I said, well, you need to be reporting the contact, you know, truthfully, because you're not. He said, yeah, I did. And I said, no, this is what my son said to me. And this is what you reported, which is completely not how it went. And he said, no, I reported what I saw. And what I said, but you couldn't have done because that didn't happen, did it? And then basically my son had come in anyway. So he stopped and I said, hi, you can hear me on the video. Oh, hi, darling. That was it. And I got stopped from seeing my son for that, literally, because apparently I had gone there, kicked off. My son was really scared. No such thing happened. And I say these people literally make it up and lie. And it's beyond belief.
It's false reporting, isn't it? I've seen it firsthand. Yeah. They false report on everything. Another question I've got is, do you record all your interactions with the social workers?
Everything. Absolutely everything. And I urge everyone to do the same. I mean, apart from the fact that they can't stand it, but if they're telling the truth, then they haven't got anything to worry about.
Exactly. It's a question that comes up a lot, right? People are like, oh, you know, I don't want to upset them or make them feel like I'm being angry or aggressive or, you know, trying to stitch them up. But
I don't tell them.
That's what I thought originally, because I thought the same thing. I went on like a Facebook forum and stuff, and someone advised me on one of these stupid groups. They said, oh, you know, you can't do that because it makes them feel uncomfortable and you don't want to give that impression to make them feel bad. So I, you know, trust them to do the right thing. So I went in, trusted them to do the right thing. And then you literally get this report back with 18 pages of things that didn't even happen. And you're thinking, now, if I'd recorded that, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on, because even if you write a response to what they've written in their report and explain this is not right and this is not true, you seem to be made out to be the bad person, because it's like, oh, you know, this guy's clearly argumentative or this person's clearly argumentative because they're just arguing all these different points. But all you're saying is, hey, none of this happened. None of this is right. We never had this conversation. So going back to what you're saying, same thing. If anyone's listening here, I personally would recommend record everything. Set your camera up, tell them, you know, to their face, say, look, I'm recording for my protection, your protection, more importantly, the protection of my children. Make sure you cover yourself.
Most of the time, I mean, when I've recorded them, I don't tell them, because when I've recorded them and I've said I'm recording, you get, they won't. And then you don't get anywhere where your children are concerned. And not only that.
So it's online? Is it online discussions?
Whatever. If I have a meeting with them, I record it. If I record all my phone calls with everyone, whether it's the police, everyone I've interacted with this. And because, do you know what? If I didn't, then I wouldn't have the evidence that I have also. Because one of the things, so there's been several social workers since my children have been taken. And one of them, she asked me, if my children to be returned to me, would I engage with children's services? And I said, I didn't really, I didn't really need to or whatever, but of course I would, if it means me having my children back, I'll do whatever. And so of course I'll engage. Now I've got that on recording, and yet she wrote in her statement for court and stood in there in court and swore that I categorically stated that I would not engage with children's services if my children were to be returned to me. Yet I've got it on recording the complete opposite. I mean, that's
Yeah.
perjury.
Mm-hmm. You're
But
correct.
they don't. The thing is, they think that they don't class it as perjury because they know damn well it's not a real court of law. It's not. It's a building that looks like a court that a bunch of corporate men and women are doing business through and in, using our children as assets.
Yeah. So this is my opinion on things as well. I think that the government is just exploiting families for profit. You know, they're exploiting separating families to try and benefit off it, and they're exploiting single mothers to try and take their children and again to profit off it, because there's profits to be had there. That's my opinion on things, and that's again one of the reasons that I want to do this, because I want to try and find out as much information as possible.
Yeah, and for the people that think as well, because they say, oh no, it costs the council to put children in care, so it's not. No, what happens is any children that, whether they're on a SIN plan, whether on child protection, whether they're in care, any of it, the more referrals that come through, the more applications, the more children that come through the system, that generates funding. So that council gets more and more money. So if they've taken more children that year, they get more money. It's not how people, how people think. It's contracts. I've got another recording from lab. He admitted the councils have contracts with the labs that do the hair strand testing and the alcohol testing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then people wonder why, when they haven't touched a drug, it's coming back, that they have, because it doesn't matter.
Why you have to use a court-approved lab.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it all goes through the court, and then if you say no, then they'll say, "Oh well," the judge will basically think that you have. Then, I mean, I've had my hair cut out. It's proven that there's no alcohol, no drugs. But the thing is, even the recent test, I mean, I had my own one as well, and they still come back. I was actually doing dry January as well. Okay, so there's definitely not a drop of alcohol, but yeah, it said I was a moderate drinker. And then I said, hang on a minute, it can't. I said to my solicitor, how has that come back as that? When considering I've had one done myself as well, and that's not the result. It's a different result. And all my solicitor saying was, oh, don't worry, because it's not a result for concern. The court won't care about that, basically. I said, but it's completely wrong. Whether they've got concern because they're not saying they think I'm a drinker, but it says that when I've got no alcohol in my system. How so?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't.
Yeah.
And also, solicitors are there to take your instructions. They're supposed to advise you on the law, and instead they may as well be social workers. They sound like them. They defend them, even when they're your solicitor. I mean, how's that? And if you instruct them to do something, they say, oh no, I don't think that's best. And I say, well, that's what I want you to do. Like I've said, I want to put in, I'm discharging this order. Oh no, they'll start making findings. They can't make findings that aren't there. I mean, obviously they make it as they go along, but
so it sounds like despite everything that you've told me about with regards to their father, with regards to the social workers and the foster carers and things like that, it seems like you've still got your children on side. Is the relationship still good with them? You know, what's your experience been like with parental alienation? Have you had to face any of that?
Well, obviously for the fact that I haven't seen them since 2024. Now, the only contact I have is through phone. I'm not social. Don't know. I mean, they must know it, because there's not a chance that I would be going this whole time and I wouldn't have spoke to them at all. It just wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have allowed it.
So why are you not allowed to see your children? Not even in contact or anything?
They're only allowed to, under the Children's Act, they're only allowed to stop contact for 7 days, and then they have to take it back to court to get a court order. but they don't follow any due process whatsoever or follow any laws. So I had a letter from manager saying that they can't safely supervise my contact because one of the reasons, there's nothing wrong with the contact. I mean, and all my contact notes say, there was no safeguarding concerns. You know, my children are very well looked after in my care. Absolutely no safeguarding concerns, and certainly not in this contact centre. But they've just stopped me because they can't control me. So like I say, if my son tells me things and they say, stop talking about that, I will say, no, we will not. And they will say, well, we'll stop contact. We have to stop contact. And even my kids at the time would say, try it. We're not going anywhere. We're staying here with our mum. So they have to stop it.
So I'm still really, really confused about all of this. There's no safeguarding concerns. It seems that the wishes of the child, which is part of the framework, the welfare checklist, children's welfare checklist, all kind of indicates that they want to be with you and they're not afraid of you, right? So then how have they been taken away?
Exactly. So what happens on the 23rd of July, 2022, police turned up and started battering in my door. Mm-hmm. They caused significant damage. They were shouting outside that they were getting armed police. They went round to the back of the property and was, you know, whacking the French doors back there. And they were outside the property for 4 hours. And then they left. And
was there any indication that this was due to happen, or was it just completely out of the blue?
No. Oh, I couldn't believe it. Well, at first when they started whacking the door, they didn't even give a chance to open the door anyway. It was bang, 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 start smash, smash, smash. And
so no phone call, no letter, no court order?
No, nothing like that, no. And it turns out it was from an allegation that apparently I had harassed my ex-partner, which didn't happen anyway.
You mean their father? Their father?
Yeah, the children's father, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then that was the 23rd of July, 2022. I have in writing from professional standards that they had no right or authority to do that to my door because harassment isn't an indictable offence, therefore cannot force entry. Now, I feel like to cover their backsides there, just not very long later, on the 2nd of August, 2022, they came to my mother's property, smashed through her property, arrested me. I still was none the wiser that that it was anything to do with my children. I just thought, because I'm used to this with the ex making absolutely ridiculous allegations to the police and the police acting on it. Yeah, anything that they've got from me of, you know, and photos of my injuries from the violence and even admissions of him strangling me, nothing, you know, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, basically they arrested my mum on that day as well. I was at the police station and I said I wanted my phone call and they said, who do you want to call? And I said, my mum. And she said, oh, the officer said, no, you can't. She's here. And then as soon as they said that my mum was there and had been arrested, I knew that something was wrong with my children. And I said, oh, where are my children? And they didn't tell me for 4 hours. There's all lies in the police record of like when they told me and things like that. But even in the police record, there isn't anything to say as to why they took the children. It says that I think it was something like I was reluctant to engage or something, not a reason to take the children. They were the police were on the video saying, we need to get out of here drastically. They were covering the body cameras. One officer questioned, was this normal? And the other officer said, no, it's not, but because it was pre-planned, but they're using the excuse of the risk to life or limb. But even if there is a risk to life or limb, if they genuinely believed that there was a risk to life or limb, when they smashed through someone's house and realized that that isn't the case, they don't just carry on. You know, you've got to say, sorry about that. We just needed to make sure. Then they leave. You don't go and steal the children. And one of my sons was actually at my father's house and they've put on the report that they took both of my children from my mum's, which wasn't the case, and they know it. It's because they have to lie and say, but then there isn't a reason on there to say as to why they were taken. There's several inspectors on there and said, we don't think it's right to speak to the children at this time. They were 10 and 11. They'd just been taken, stolen, traumatized, and no one even spoke to them to get their view. But what it was is because they didn't have anything to take my children with, they couldn't take them. They got the police to abuse their powers so this woman could go to the court and say, oh, these children have been police protected. We need an order. And they kept me from the hearing, so I wasn't there to defend my children. But the father that had been absent for years was there.
So,
and he had changed that number in recent years. So how did social have it to get him there in less than 48 hours when he hadn't even been in the children's lives for years?
so what have you been doing to combat this whole situation? Have you had to go back into court? Have you had to write to local authorities, MPs? How have you been fighting this?
I've written to the MPs. To be honest, the first one, he's not there. He's not the local one anymore, but he was pretty much abusive to me, literally, and then blocked me on Facebook. The next one said that she can't get involved in a court matter when I've told her that it's not a court matter because the court itself said it has no record of this case and it is merely a hearing centre and nothing was processed through there.
This is part of the problem with MPs, isn't it? They can quite easily say it's not my jurisdiction, it's not my responsibility, so I can't really help you. So
But
if you can't, but family court is not, so they can just use that and say, hey, this is not for us. This is not our focus. And I'm sure that they're probably given those instructions from higher ups, right? To say, look, you can't get involved in this type of thing. So it's who do you talk to? Where do you go?
It's actually a fraud matter. And it's a police matter. The police, obviously, at the moment, is pretty difficult because the police were the ones that were complicit in the theft of my children. So you're trying to get them to investigate themselves. But at the end of the day, this crime's been committed. And what I'm trying to do is I've asked for 3.5 years. Now, if they thought they were lawful in any way, then they would surely be able to give me the answer. And for 3.5 years, they still have not. I've said, if you use these powers, what reason for? It's a simple question. They can't answer it because they know they know their own evidence. I mean, with the body worn footage alone, with them saying they need to get out of it drastically, that it was pre-planned. One was saying how excited they were to smash the door in. The other one was asking, are you buzzing? And they were also just discussing, if this was supposed to be an emergency, they were like, oh, well, we could just PP the other one as well. So blasé. So I've even gone to the press and, one of the women that I spoke to, when I said that they are literally stealing our children and abusing our children at an alarming daily rate. And she said, I know. And I said,
so was it local press or mainstream press?
It was local. I've contacted many, and Channel 4 being one of them as well. Again, I've got a tracker on my email, so I know exactly who's looking at it and, how long for and things like that. And people are seeing it. I mean, people are seeing things hundreds and hundreds of times.
So they'll not necessarily ignore your email. They'll go into it, spend time reading it, and then come back multiple times to read it?
Yeah, or forward it on.
So if it's being forwarded on, then multiple people are then clicking on it, reading it and seeing it. And you can see the view rates and open rates and things like that.
But still nothing been done. Because so the applications I've put in as well, the same judge keeps intercepting anything that I do. One of them being was an application, and he said it wasn't a court-generated document, but it's off the government website. So it absolutely is. So he's told everyone, don't do anything with it. So I can't get any, so that's there. I had a void order stamped by Winchester Court and a motion for discovery and an order for a counterclaim, and the court stamped it, which is more than what the order that I've got. I had a PDF and it's got no signature on it. It's got no court stamp on it. I mean, it's not a court order. I've had no chance.
If you're in Winchester, that's part of Hampshire, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's Hampshire County Council, yeah.
Okay.
But this same judge, because I got those documents stamped by a court and that court sent it to Portsmouth to deal with, the same judge actually wrote an email to all involved saying, this looks like a counterfeited stamp, and was trying to accuse me of counterfeiting the court stamp and suggesting that they phone the police on me, which, I mean, the hypocrisy. So that's the type of thing that I'm up against.
It sounds bizarre. It sounds really, really bizarre.
Yeah.
I
And unless
I
you're in
I
it,
would
people
be
don't realise.
I'm absolutely shocked. Like I said, for the most part, people I've come across naturally have been dads on, the separating side of things. But the more and more I investigate and do research and find out about this forced adoption side, it's happening a lot everywhere. And single mothers are really being targeted.
That's terrible. I know the one thing I do take is the fact that at least my children they were they were 10 and 11 and they know me. They know their mother. These women are giving birth and they're having their babies ripped away within an hour or two of giving
I've
birth.
heard.
And
I've heard.
it is, and again, with no court orders, they keep using this police protection, but the police protection is risk to life or limb. So
Hmm.
how are babies in hospital that mums have just given birth to, where's the risk to life or limb when they're in a hospital safe?
Hmm.
Yet the police come into the hospitals with social workers and take those babies.
No, I've read the
Once they're
stories.
in there, they're in there. It's extremely hard to get them back.
Hmm.
And especially when they're adopted, the parents lose all rights and you haven't got a clue where they are. And also, just so people are aware, because when they look at the statistics of children in care and things, one, that's just the figure that they're actually giving us. But also,
Hmm.
that's not including the millions of children that have been adopted. They're not included in those statistics. And it is in the millions.
Yeah, there's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down about what happens when they're in adopted places and foster homes and things like that. Yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole that I'm discovering as well. So obviously
That's where the
this
money
is,
is made as well with the children's
yeah,
homes.
yeah.
My son he's just been moved actually from one of the children's homes and he got given 72 hours notice and they just don't even care. But that particular company that owns that home between 2022 and 2024 made £20 million in profit.
Hmm.
£20 million in profit in children's homes. And people don't see where the money is.
Hmm.
Some of these children, the councils are paying these private care homes like 15 grand a week. And these children are getting the bare minimum. They're not even getting their basic needs met.
Yeah, it's like human trafficking, isn't it?
Literally,
And
state sanctioned.
there's a really dark side to all of this that goes even deeper and further, which is like I say, a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But I will be looking into that at some point if I can manage. But it's some things I've been finding out about are very strange. So going back to the mental health topic very quickly, you've already told us a little bit about your son. So you've got three boys, one's 24. Yeah, one's 11, one's 14, right? So the 24-year-old, I take
13
it
and
he's old
14.
enough, 13 and 14. So I take it the one that's 24, he's not included in any of this because he'd qualify as an adult, right? So he
Yeah.
can make his own decisions.
Yeah, of course. But
So he's safe.
yeah, but at the time, because obviously we've been going through this 10 years. I mean, he's 23, he'll be 24 this year. So he has been involved in the last 10 years when he was under 16
Hmm.
because they going back to when with the family court business and then with the father making more allegations and then social services getting involved like that. And then the manager, we butted heads and she wanted to show her control and she tried giving my children to the father. But the point is they couldn't because I had a really good parenting assessment and he had a really poor one. So they've been siding with, and even if once they've got a report or a good assessment, if it doesn't fit their narrative and what they said, or it shows them up to be wrong, they don't care. They still fight it. And if anything, they will try and do anything to find every little thing against you.
Hmm.
You do become targeted and it
Yeah.
becomes not about the children anymore.
It's
So
false reporting. It's false reporting in my opinion.
it literally is. So my eldest was involved in it. And when they were telling him back then that they were going to send him to the dad, and if not, they were going to put him in foster care. My son said, I'll run away. I'll run away and I'm not going anywhere. We're staying with our mum. And obviously, I know he's an adult there, but that's his little brothers. His little brothers have been stolen. He's seen his mum, not who she was because her sons have been stolen. It's affected it's affected everyone. I lost my nan. My nan didn't see her great-grandchildren for the last 15 months of her life because these people kept them away.
So how do you manage to cope with this?
To be honest, I say keep busy, but sometimes I have to switch off from it because if you focus on it too much, you need a break from anything, too much of something. It's all consuming. And I just try and help people. I try and look after myself as best I can, which obviously don't always happen when you're in extreme stress because it is torment. It is torture. For nearly a month when they stole my children, I didn't even know where they were. Nothing. And again, that's against the law. In the Children's Act, you're supposed to know where your children are. You're supposed to have contact. And I knew absolutely nothing. And actually, they moved my son in less than 4 weeks. They moved my son 7 times. And all sorts happened to him in that time. And I wasn't even told. My son has broke his collarbone. They didn't even tell me. I was literally 5 minutes down the road. And an ambulance apparently was going to take 4 hours. So they phoned this woman who lived 45 minutes away and is a drinker. And my son had to wait with a broken collarbone by himself at school, not with his mum, for her to come and take him. And there's just no care there. There's no care at all. So you can imagine yourself as a parent, imagine not knowing where your children are. How can it not be kidnapped? It's because they got, they went to college.
Legalised kidnapping is the term that I've heard.
Pardon?
Legalised kidnapping is the term that I keep coming across.
Yeah. I don't actually, and people say, it's legal kidnapping, but I don't even call it legal because how is it legal when they're not even following their law? If they're breaching laws, then that's illegal. If they're abusing their powers, that's illegal. If they're committing fraud, that's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And
fraud, perjury, all of the above.
Yeah. And what they do when they steal them, because they have no reason to take them in the first place. But once you're already in the system, you've got no choice but to go through and carry on trying to get your children back and be a part of it. But what they're doing is they've got no reason in the first place. And then they go through that whole, if parents fight, they have their hearing and that, get the final care order. And then you've got to try and forget about what happened in the first place. Behaving unlawfully and illegally in the first instance, that does not, you can't correct that later on with an order. Whether even if, do you know what I mean? Even if there were risks later on, which there wasn't anyway, but you can't do that. That's what they are doing. They're using orders to legalize what they did in the first place. And the thing is, it goes on for so long. And parents, I think as well, like, this is 3.5 years of my children not being with me. Yeah, and it feels like so much longer, but also only feels like just yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the 2 little boys that left at 10 and 11 that were stolen are not the children that they are now. And you don't normally see your children like changing because you're with them every day. It's only when you look back at photos and you think, look how young they were. Look how young they looked. And now I'm seeing photos of my children and, it's almost like they're almost like different children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's really bad, to be honest, but I have to keep going. I've always been a strong person and I won't let these people break me.
I've got a feeling, and I hope that I'm right, but I've just got a feeling that there's going to be a bit of a momentum shift over the next few years. Reason being is that this has been going on for 30, close to 40 years, right? Already, this is what people have been dealing with secretly behind closed doors. It's different now because people are actually standing up. So people like yourself, hopefully one day I'll be included in that conversation as well. And people are standing up. They're talking about it openly on social media. They're exposing the system for what it really is and what it's doing to people. Mainstream media are all starting to catch wind of it, and they're starting to cover more and more stories about it as well, which is fantastic. And I hope that continues. And that's, again, one of the reasons that I do this, because if mainstream media is not going to cover it all day, every day, then I will at least do my best to do that. So there's always that conversation. There's always something being spoken about from my perspective, if I can. And then hopefully one day there's going to be enough pressure because, the courts now are saying that they're going to try and be more transparent they're going to allow journalism and blogging and be more transparent with information. How true that's going to be, we don't know, but at
Well,
least.
we've already got experience of that because I actually I'm involved with a lot of mums and dads now across the country, and some in America, some in New Zealand, because like I said, it's worldwide. But one of the mothers, and it's terrible, her story, but she actually did get a reporter in for an application that she had put in, and she wanted the truth out there. And the
Mhm.
reporter absolutely slaughtered her and completely reported lies. So I don't hold out much hope at all with that, because we know
See,
what
the problem is that the problem is with mainstream media, there's going to be a huge element of government funding involved. Do you know what I mean? So they have to, they've got to keep the funding happy, so
yeah,
to speak. Do you know, a lot of mainstream media is controlled. That's the whole point, right? It's like a hypodermic syringe where they feed you the information that they want you to hear. So let's hope that social media in the next little while makes a difference. I don't know whether you've heard of I guess you can call it a protest, at the Spinnaker Tower in Portsmouth, April
okay,
24th. So I'm going to be there this year. I think it's not too far from you either,
no,
but that's going to be a big day, I think, this year, where people are all going to get together and, congregate. There's going to be a big event where the lights are going to be switched on, the colors are going to be changed color. And, it was on the BBC News last year. So things like that, I want to join that movement. I want to be part of it. I want to be involved. So yeah, if anyone's listening again, check out the Papa website, Papa.org, on most social medias. I definitely recommend going down there. Hopefully you get to meet me in person, and hopefully, Kerrie, you can be there as well. I like to end every podcast with what I call the 3x3. So it'll be 3 questions about 3 different topics. You can answer them quick fire. You can answer them long form, completely up to you. Okay. The first set of questions, I like to start with something positive. So what 3 things are you grateful for?
gosh, wow, grateful for the fact I'm still standing, and that I've still got my fight in me. Oh God, do you know what? This is a hard one. You might have to edit some of this, because I don't want to be sat here umming and ahhing about the positives, okay? Because I don't know, to be fair, when I'm comparing to other people, I've still got a roof over my head, I've still got my job, and I'm still here campaigning, and my children, as much of these people have tried breaking our bond, it was too strong,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't. Whereas,
So
and I'm not in some of the positions that these poor women and children are in, if I'm honest.
to be honest, that's something that I try and tell myself just to justify and make myself feel better. It's like, oh, it's not great for me, but at the same time, I know a lot of people that are far worse off than me. But it still doesn't make it okay. Do you know
No.
what I mean?
And if we hadn't experienced what we've experienced, then we wouldn't be awake to just how corrupt it is. Therefore,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't be able to share it, and and people wouldn't know, so it would just continue. So I'm grateful for the fact that I've woken up to what an absolute mess this
Mm-hmm.
is. All of it
You're
is,
going to
and
say shit show, weren't you?
hopefully I can try and make some change, because I just can't bear these children being harmed under the
So
guise.
talking about your campaign work, talking about your want for reform and change, where can people find you?
So I'm on TikTok. I've got Kerrie Little backup, and just Kerrie Little at Kerrie Little on TikTok, and just my
Mm-hmm.
name on Facebook. My
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, my Instagram's just my name, I think, or Kerrie Little 84. But to be honest, that's actually private. So I think I just do I put some stuff out there then?
I can't remember, but I've definitely stumbled across you a few times, and that's when I thought, oh, I've seen this one before. But yeah, I think I first came across you on TikTok, if I remember correctly,
That was
and then I
probably
started seeing.
the video that was on 4.7 million. That's at the moment it is,
Sorry, say
obviously.
that again.
That's probably the video that's on 4.7 million views at the moment.
4.7 million. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So my second set of questions is, what 3 things are needed to reform the family court system?
Abolish it.
That one comes up all the time.
Yeah.
get rid of it, start again. But the only problem there, and the only issue is that they would just replace it with something equally as corrupt in a different,
This is the thing, and do you know one
different
thing?
clothing.
That this is a massive belief system as well, though. Okay, because we all believe that these people, well, a lot of people believe, oh, we must pay council tax and we must do this, and the police can do this, and social services can do this. But we're all men and women. Yeah, we all came here the same. We are all men and women. These people hiding behind titles, and it's men and women doing it to other men and women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so and also men and women believing that other men and women have authority over them.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone
well,
was
it's not believing. We don't have a choice. If someone says to you, "You can't see your kid," it's like, well,
yeah,
how can you?
exactly.
How can that guy sitting in that chair tell me that when you don't even know half the information? Do you know what I mean?
100%. And this is the thing, and I do get it, because people say, oh, it's not just a belief. They've actually done that. They have done that, which I know. And when we're in it, it is a bit more difficult, extremely difficult. But if on the masses, everyone said, every time someone got a court summons or this or that, and literally en masse, everyone said, I don't think so, and literally didn't believe in it, there wouldn't be the system. Do you get what I mean? Because everyone is believing in it and thinking, oh, if I don't do this, this will happen. It all has a knock-on effect. And, at the moment, we can't even get people to see that, the council tax is a massive con and different things, let alone that with the children, because I think they think it's so far-fetched. Oh, they can't just come and rob children, but they do.
Yeah.
Apparently the figures in Hampshire is 12 a day. I mean...
Yeah, I'm not hearing good things about Hampshire. I'm in Hampshire as well.
Really?
But yeah. So I've got another friend of mine from Southampton who's been telling me about Hampshire, and it's very, very unpleasant from what I've heard. Very unpleasant. But again, that's probably a podcast for another day. Sorry, say again?
Maybe I should be put in contact with him, maybe. I'm in Southampton. That's where I am in Hampshire, in Southampton.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put you guys in contact. You can have a chat. He's very passionate, and he does a lot of, I say, not necessarily campaign work online, but more a lot of research. And he goes to a lot of lengths to, follow the legislations, the law, and approach the right people in the right way. But just keeps getting shut down at every opportunity, which is similar to what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll put you guys in contact. You can have a chat. So you've given me two. You said abolish, which is a very popular one, shall we say. You said transparency. Again, 100% correct. People need to see and need to understand what the government, what family court is doing to families, right? They're not serving the purpose. The purpose is to protect families and children, and they're doing the opposite. They're destroying them, making them ill, taking all of their money and profiting off it. That's exactly what they're doing. So that's
and allowing more abuse if there's abusers involved.
Encouraging
abuse.
Enabling the abuser.
That's what I say. They enable, encourage and support the abusers.
Correct.
And those abusers are sat there rubbing their hands together, absolutely loving it. But this is, the one thing is, obviously, we have to do what we have to do to get through this. But I've got to look at these people as well, and they think they are so high and mighty and think they know so much better. Like you say, they think, oh, I've been in this job 10 years. So how can you not see it then? Because even if
they do see it.
So exactly. So I can only believe that you're either completely and utterly corrupt, or then you're just absolutely, completely incompetent at your job. It's only one of
I think it's a bit of all of it. Yeah, some of them are incompetent. Some of them are definitely corrupt. And do you know what the thing is? If you look into some of the figures as well, you'll also see there's a really high turnover rate for social workers. Reason being is that they've probably studied to be a social worker. They've got there and they've realized, I can't do this. This is so corrupt. I'm out. And then they leave before the year's done, or they do their year and they get the hell out of there. So how many times have you had, that social worker doesn't work for us anymore? They've left.
They do say that as well, because they move in departments. And just coming back about the CAFCAS offices and stuff, they say they work for CAFCAS, but what you'll find a lot of the time as well, they work for the council that you are up against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got that many times. So there's evidence there. So yeah, they all do the same.
What's your third one? Tell me your third one.
Third one, I think absolutely, I know obviously abolish the whole system together. Take it away, that risk of, because it's nonsense. That,
Yeah.
you know,
So
like,
it's,
because they're taking
what
children
is it?
in case they are harmed and then
Yeah.
harming them.
So we've not found any evidence to suggest the allegations are true, but for preventative measures, we're going to charge you for it anyway, or we're going to put the order in anyway. It's like, well, but you've just done a whole case to find out that none of it's true. So how can you put preventative measures in for something that you've already told me is not true?
Yeah,
Doesn't make
exactly.
sense. It doesn't make sense. That one is a big one, I think. That is a big one. How can you put preventative measures for something that's you've already researched and, evidence to find not to be true? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so my third and final questions or set of questions is, if you were to describe the system in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
Well, no, corrupt,
Yep.
evil, and soul destroying.
Corrupt, evil, soul destroying.
Mm, literally is, yeah.
Kerrie, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. Really appreciate your time and really appreciate you sharing your story with us. And we hope that it's going to help other people. As I said, if you're looking for Kerrie, you can find her at Kerrie Little on all of her socials. I guess my message to you is, keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully you're going to find, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in a year, maybe not in a few years' time, but I'm hoping that one day people like yourself that are speaking openly about this, that are sharing the information, that are posting about it, is going to make a difference in the whole grand scheme of things.
Yeah, definitely need more exposure. People, be braver, speak out, because children need protecting.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.